Welcome to This Explainer. Let's just dive right in because today we're exploring a concept that literally flips how most of us operate on a daily basis. Have you ever considered that the very thing we try so desperately to hide, our own ignorance, might actually be our absolute greatest superpower? I mean, we spend so much energy trying to look like the smartest person in the room, right? But the idea we're unpacking today suggests something completely different. It proposes a fascinating paradox that true wisdom doesn't start with having all the answers. It starts with actively embracing what we don't know. I don't know. Three simple words, yet for a lot of us, they are absolutely terrifying to say out loud. But here's the thing, this often feared phrase is actually the crucial starting point for infinite learning. It's the foundational building block for gaining true wisdom. Think about it. If you can't admit that you don't know something, you immediately slam the door shut on ever learning it. By simply uttering those words, you shift your entire mindset from a closed, defensive posture to an open, receptive one. It's a real game changer. Section 1, the power of not knowing. So we really need to clearly define the vast difference between our current existing knowledge and the sheer universe of the unknown out there. And it is a massive gap. What we currently know is strictly limited to our past experiences. It has a built-in ceiling. But what we don't know, that is completely unlimited. If you're humble enough to say, I don't know, you instantly give yourself infinite scope for growth. You're basically moving out of that tiny microscopic slice of existing knowledge and stepping into this massive, overwhelming realm of pure possibility. Now, there is a really important distinction to make here. You absolutely must have a philosophy for yourself. You've lived, you've learned from your life experiences, and you've used the resources you have at hand, and that is immensely valuable. But, and this is the key right here, you have to remain conscious that you are human. You can't restrict yourself by stubbornly clinging to one absolute right view or belief about something. There's always a chance for you to change for the better. You just have to stay humble enough to avoid locking yourself into a single perspective, because, well, refusing to change only limits your potential. Moving on to Section 2, the biology of rigid thinking. This active acceptance of the unknown becomes incredibly critical because, biologically speaking, staying open-minded actually gets physically harder as we age. Specifically, this really kicks in right around 40 years of age. Why? Because as the years pass, our beliefs and our patterns of thinking literally start to become more and more rigid. We get stuck in our ways, and not just philosophically, but at a biological level. And the reason for this is just fascinating. If you find yourself getting a bit stubborn, it isn't necessarily a personal failure or some flaw in your character. It's actually an adaptive behavior by your brain. You see, as we age, our brain tries to conserve more energy simply to keep us alive. Learning new things, questioning our assumptions, staying agile in our thinking, all of that requires a massive amount of mental resources. It is genuinely strenuous work for the brain to form new neural networks. So to save energy, the aging brain just naturally defaults to what it already knows. So there's this stark contrast between these two states. On one hand, you have the agile brain. This brain is constantly questioning, it's learning, and it's doing the heavy lifting to form new neural networks. But on the other hand, you have the rigid brain. Because it's desperately trying to conserve energy, it takes the easy way out. It pushes us into just accepting things exactly the way they are, instead of questioning them. And the real danger here is that this energy-saving mechanism makes us fall into the exact same loops of behavior. We end up blindly following the same patterns, even when those patterns are incredibly unhealthy and, frankly, are clearly no longer working for us. Section 3, the art of unlearning. So how exactly do we fight back against our own biology and break out of those unhealthy loops? Well, it requires a strenuous but absolutely necessary step-by-step process. Step 1, as we've established, is just having the humility to say, I don't know. Step 2 is where the real heavy lifting comes in. You have to completely dismantle your limiting beliefs. These are the rigid structures in your mind that are literally stopping you from becoming who you want to be. And finally, step 3, you must evolve and embrace new ideologies. Think about it. As you go through different phases of your life, what worked for you in your 20s might completely fail you in your 40s or 50s. You have to evolve new frameworks that actually serve you better in the present moment. And listen, this isn't something that just happens passively. You have to actively dedicate time to learn how to unlearn. It's a skill. You literally have to sit down and refine your understanding of various things in life. By intentionally spending time recognizing that, sure, while you have learned a lot from experience, there is still a vast amount to learn from the unknown, you make yourself receptive to a significantly better life. Section 4, embracing the unknown. This brings us to the tangible, real-world payoffs of doing all this hard mental work to overcome our brain's natural rigidity. Unlearning isn't just some abstract intellectual exercise. It fundamentally changes how you interact with the world around you. It leads to higher empathy and increased compassion. And perhaps most practically, it gives you a very unique strength, the ability to remain completely calm when your own beliefs and ideologies are questioned by others. Because you aren't rigidly attached to having the right view, a challenge to your ideas no longer feels like a threat to your actual survival. To really keep ourselves on track with this, we can use a powerful daily mantra: I don't know, and what I know is not everything. By repeating this phrase, we actively fight that biological urge to be rigid. We stop merely confirming our existing biases, and instead, we empower ourselves to actually do what is in our own best interests. It's essentially a daily protective shield against getting stuck in our ways. And that brings us to the end of our explainer today. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question to really think about. Take a hard look at your own life right now. What limiting belief do you hold? Perhaps something you've just been doing on autopilot for years, that you need to apply the I don't know mantra to today. Challenge yourself to step out of that tiny sliver of what you know and into the infinite possibilities of the unknown. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep questioning.